We're busy, the cognitive load is high, we've got a million responsibilities at home, at work. If you're gripping onto everything that you have so tightly, you don't have any hands left to grab onto the next thing that's coming. I had to get to the stage where I was happy to leave medicine in order to be a happy person. If you feel trapped, you've only forgotten that truth. I'm always choosing everything in my life.
Hello, my beautiful friends. My name is Dr. Beck.
And I am Christine Barker, and this is Am I Doing It Wrong? A podcast for doctors by doctors. Every week on the pod, we'll be bringing you conversations which shine light in dark places, normalise the doctor journey, ease unnecessary suffering, and give you actionable steps to thrive in all facets of your life. So grab a cuppa and get cozy for this week's episode of Am I Doing It Wrong?
Hello, our Dr. Humans, and welcome back to the podcast. I was woken up by a very enthusiastic Sunday morning Christine, which I gotta say is not really out of the ordinary for Christine. Like, she doesn't really have like a rest day. She's just always like, for most of us, we're like, oh, weekend. But Christine's just like, weekend, yeah. Every day's it. So, this was a little bit different though, because she was like, Beck, I've got to get this out of my body. I've been talking to this person, this doctor, this person, like doctors in all different, me included, in all these different places of our lives. And she's like, we need to get this message out now. Today, are you by any chance free to jump on and record a podcast right now? And I got to say, nothing makes me happier because she gave me a little bit of a lowdown about what we're talking about today, and it is gold. So sit back. Whether it's a Sunday morning and you're sleepy, I promise that Christine's vibe, it's still Sunday appropriate. Can you like turn it down just like a couple of notches in the excitement? No,
Probably not.
no.
Let's be honest.
They can cope. Grab a cuppa, maybe turn down the volume a few notches because we're going to be excited. What is going on in your head, Christine?
Oh my goodness. Yes. So it was just, honestly, sometimes this happens to me, and I know it happens to you as well, Beck, when I'm just like, I need to speak about this right now. And it's just been coming up everywhere in my life. I know we've had conversations about it, and I was speaking to another couple of female doctor friends who are also experiencing this. And that's not to say men aren't, but those are people I've been speaking to. And so what I wanted to really talk about today was this concept of detachment. And I want you to think about the situation you're in just now. I just feel like so many of us will be resonating with our lives at the moment. We're busy, the cognitive load is high, we've got a million responsibilities at home, at work. There's just so many extra layers. So there's the doctor thing, there's life and family, and then there's whatever you've superimposed as a high achiever. But whilst we do that, it can feel large, it can feel heavy, and we're kind of wondering, how do we do all the things that we want to do? And I just feel like I'm having this conversation a lot, and a lot of people are getting into this place where it's, feeling a bit agitated and overwhelmed as opposed to joyful and bountiful and all the things that we thought it was going to be when we signed up for all the things. And there's a lot of things that we can choose, but there's a lot of things that are kind of there by, it's not that you wouldn't choose them, but say, for example, having children, and that's all part of this as well. It's not a job you can sort of like go and leave from. If that sounds familiar to you, definitely keep listening, because this could be an absolute game changer for you, is this concept of detachment. So when I say detachment, I actually don't mean giving up things or letting go of things necessarily. Like, that might be part of it. But what I mean is like more of like an energetic disconnection, like detachment in the sense of hitting the pause button, creating a blank canvas for your life, like understanding all the things that are currently in your life, all the responsibilities, all the identities that you carry, but actually just having a blank piece of paper and then resetting from there, literally detaching everything from the canvas around, if you can imagine, around the side of the canvas, and then like, what are you going to put back in? And Beck and I have a few examples of this, but I certainly have heaps from, basic domestic things in your relationship, at work, and also in that bigger picture career sense. Beck, can you think of something, I know this is resonating with you at the moment as well, but this concept of detachment, have you used this in your life along the way?
I have used this in my life to make the biggest and best decisions of my life and to continue to make really brave and bold decisions in my life. I think this is a fundamental concept for anybody who wants to live a life that is not just good, but is great. it's a skill that you're describing, Christine. You're saying like, oh, you just detach, but it's a skill. Like, let me tell you, I've had to sit with my journal or in coaching sessions, like fighting with myself to loosen my grip on certain things. And even in the most skillful places, like with you, Christine, you can sit there and you can help me, like you can see my grip be really tight and you can help me loosen it. And it doesn't always come the first time. You know, it's a skill and it's a willingness. But as you're saying, Christine, it creates so much freedom. And, you know, the thing that comes to mind is, you know, when you're holding your grip so tight, when you're attached to all the things in your current life, but you're somebody who's wanting to grow and change and improve, up level your life, where you want to create something different, better to you in your life, if you're gripping onto everything that you have so tightly, you don't have any hands left to grab onto the next thing that's coming. And so this detachment skill that you're describing it's foundational to the life that I live, that I love, and to the life that I'm still creating. And I want to underline, this is A, a skill, and B, it is a skill and it is deeply misunderstood. So if you heard the word detachment, as we've started to introduce it here, hang tight, pun, hang tight with us right now, and maybe we can loosen your grip on your idea of what detachment is so that you can be able to really use it to benefit you in your life.
Yeah, and I love this. And I love when you're saying it as a skill, because it's a skill that I kind of came across. No one sort of taught me the skill. Like, I think I came at it by accident, which is why I want to talk about it, because I have heard nobody speak about this, but it just feels, I've heard people talk about it in law of attraction stuff, where they'll say, you know, if you want something, you need to detach from it and let it go. But I guess I'm kind of talking about it, we're talking about it today in more of like you're sort of attached to like an identity, a goal, a system, a way of being, just, you know, you're on I think the hamster wheel is something that like we can all kind of resonate with being attached to, like, like coming off the hamster wheel, you know, can feel like, how do you do that? I don't know how to do that. But there's a part of you that's kind of attached to the comfort zone. It's just what you're doing and you're not able to detach. And so I think that's why saying it's a skill is great. And I think, yeah, just in terms of highlighting this to people, I think some examples are helpful just to help everyone drop in today. So one of the main examples from my life was when I finished my training as a consultant and became a specialist. And I know so many of us resonate with, you know, you go to med school and you're ultimately training for that day when you become a consultant. You finish, you're at the end of the road. And I really thought that that was going to be great. I thought my life was going to open up. I thought that was going to be the happiest time of my life. But when I arrived there, everyone around me was telling me that's not enough. You need a PhD or a master's. You're basically unemployable right now. And a whole other heap of things that were said to me that I thought were true at the time. And I remember just being so devastated because I'd done all this training and I'm like, oh my goodness, like I've trained for this. And if people are telling me I can't do this, but I don't want to do a PhD and I don't necessarily want to do the master's either, was kind of where I was at. And so I was kind of exploring my options. But in that process, I actually became completely detached from being a doctor at all. Like I had to get to the stage where I was happy to leave medicine in order to be a happy person, you know, because at that time being a doctor for me was very much, it didn't feel good. You know, my training hadn't felt good and I had lost myself along the way. So I think I sort of decided, well, I don't want it to feel like this. It needs to feel better. I don't think the PhD or the master's is going to help me feel better or live the life that I currently want to live. I've put my life on hold for all these years doing my training, and now is the time that I get to decide. You know, I was 31 at the time and I was like, I want to start creating my life as opposed to passively experiencing my life. And so I really had to detach from being a doctor at all in order to allow myself to be empowered for the next step. Because once I detach from medicine, I'm like, oh, well, okay, what's the worst that can happen? I'll leave medicine and I'll do something else and maybe I'll be happy. And obviously I arrived at teaching and all the things. But I still, as you can see, continued to be a specialist doctor. And I did get beautiful employment opportunities. But some of that was because I had got to a stage where I was like, I don't have anything to lose now. I might as well just wholeheartedly go for this. I got like nice outfits. I put out my CV to these people. I started canvassing myself. Like I actually came at it from quite a confident, empowered place, because what was the worst that could happen. I'd already detached from like doing that as a career at all. Like, if that truly was a roadblock for me, I was going to find that out and it was going to be hard. But I just knew in myself that I wasn't going to be going the conventional path. But detaching just helped me to actually stay in the game, but in a way that felt right to me and aligned. And I know that, Beck, that you had a similar thing when you were sort of tossing up between coaching and doctoring. Does this resonate with you?
Absolutely, so much. And I think that's one of the main points that you've underlined there, that taking yourself to that worst case scenario, the thing that like your current self is like, oh, but if I let go of this thing, or if I loosen my grip at all on this thing, then I'm not going to have it in my life. I might lose it altogether if I loosen my grip. I might drop it, it might break, I might not be able to get it back even. And when you take yourself to that place that you're so afraid of, and this is another sort of process, if you can take yourself to that place and recognize how much agency you have to take care of yourself and give yourself what you want, or move on to the next thing, move on to the next step. If you can take yourself to that place and find agency there, then as you say, Christine, you're bulletproof. Like nothing scares you. If the thing that scares you right now, if you can see yourself in that situation in a different way, actually totally handling it and totally being okay, nothing can scare you. And that's where that really agile confidence comes from, because there are two very different types of confidence. There's a confidence that depends on everything going right. There's this perfectionistic, super controlling confidence that I think most doctors rely on most of the time. We let ourselves feel confident because we're like, well, I've read the textbook back to front 3 times. I know exactly what to do in this scenario, and therefore I'll let myself be confident. But that's a fragile confidence, and it's not bad to use. Like whatever works, use it. But it limits us here, like in this scenario, where if Christine was attached to my path must go this particular way or I won't be okay, then if the path starts to veer and not go the way that she wants it to go, especially in a situation where there aren't things, where everything's not in your control, which I gotta say we don't admit is actually all the scenarios, in that situation, your confidence is so easily crushed, crumbled. It's so easily shattered because it was just a fragile confidence. But over here, what you're talking about, Christine, is this super agile, unbreakable confidence. It's like anti-fragile confidence. And that comes from this detachment. And then you've just told us, like you've just given us another key step here. That confidence came because you detached from having things go a particular way, needing things to go a particular way. And the reason you could do that is because you dropped yourself in to that scenario where they didn't go that way. And you let yourself see what that actually meant for you. And you found out in that process that actually you'd be okay. That little process there, that extra process, that's something that, it's kind of easy to look at in retrospect. But, if I take myself to the things that I'm attached to in my life right now, I would really be helped by holding space, like by talking to you, Christine, and helping you hold me in that space and ask curious questions when immediately I'd be scared. Like when I think about not getting the thing that I want, that immediately puts like fear and panic and even like defeatedness and shame in my body. And it's really hard to think from that place. So that little extra step, that can be really helped by phoning a friend who knows how powerful you are, by sitting with a coach, by journaling. And journaling is helpful. Even though you're still sitting with yourself, it's helpful because you slow down your thoughts, you create more space, you de-identify with the thoughts a bit by putting them down in black and white. So it's a big skill stack, really. But I just want to point out that like getting extra support, extra tools in that process is really useful. And don't panic if you don't instantly detach and feel bulletproof the first time you kind of go there. I, as an example, just to like flip it into a different scenario, I've done this. This was the best thing that I ever did for my relationship. It was the best thing. I came into my current relationship, after living my life before this, having relationships before where I was very validation dependent, I was very rigid, and I was very sort of secure in those relationships too. I guess, with all the validation, I always felt like very secure. In my relationship, as I'm building my life and as we're going through all these different phases, things were constantly changing, and my partner was training and very busy, and there was so many hard things in our lives. And with that, so many hard times, so many obstacles we had to climb over and times when we were both struggling. And to me, I now understand that that is a really good relationship. But there was a more afraid part of me back then that would panic every time that things would be hard or something would go wrong. And I'd find myself really afraid that like, oh my goodness, maybe this isn't going to work out. Maybe this isn't going to work. Maybe we're going to break up. And that would like send me into a spin. And I would feel like I need to do something right now. And it was really dysfunctional, ultimately. It was really bad for the relationship. And I was kind of operating on this societal idea that, you know, if you love somebody, then you can't live without them. If you love somebody, then you need to be attached, essentially. Like, love is attachment. Love is this deep, like, I can't live without you. And so I was operating on that level. And what I realized was when I was operating from a place of like, I can't live without you, and I don't want anything to change. I want us to stay together no matter what. That was actually creating me being a very dysfunctional and controlling person, or somebody who was attempting to control another person, and monitoring him and making sure that he liked me all the time. Like I was seeking that validation because I was so attached to us being together, and I thought that that's what love was. But when I looked at that scenario, not by myself, but with the help of a coach, I could see that when I was attached in that way, I was being this validation seeking and controlling person. I needed him to behave a certain way. I needed him to do certain things so that I could feel okay. And it was making me think more about myself in the relationship rather than thinking about him, right? My job, what I now understand is my job is just to love him and to let him be himself in the biggest, most expansive way that he can be. And when I'm over here busy trying to monitor, like, does he still like me? Is this still going well? Or control his behavior because he needs to do ba. If he loves me, if this is a good relationship, he will do ba. That was making me do less loving things. And the solution to this might feel terrifying to you, but it also is detachment. Because detachment seems like you're doing something that's saying, well, you're going from I can't live without you to I can live without you. And in our current frame of love in society, we make that mean that, well, then you don't really love them. You don't really care about them. But when I was able to recognize I don't need him to be a certain way, to do certain things, to say certain things, or even to stay with me, I don't need any of that. Then I wasn't in the relationship because I needed him, and I wasn't in the relationship trying to make him behave a certain way. I was just here to love him, to let him be him. And if he ever wanted to not be with me, he could, because now it wouldn't send me in this spiral of like, oh no, I can't live without you. And I love him. I love him so much. I love him the same then as I do now. Like I love him just as much, like in how I feel. But the difference is the way I love as a verb is so much more loving, in the sense that my love is all supportive of him. It is all expansive towards him. It's all him doing what's best for him and letting him, helping him, facilitating him being his best self. So it feels like a bit of a paradox for how we understand lovers are like, you can't live without, if you love somebody, you can't live without them. No, like to love somebody well, you need to detach so that you can let them live and you can truly love them. Love as a verb.
It's so powerful, and that resonates so much because I had the same thing. I think this current relationship that I'm in is the first, and I've been in this relationship since I was just about 36 years old. I'm 40 now, so 4 or 5 years I've been with this person. The first time in my life, that late in my life, was when I learned to have enough strength to be on my own so that in a relationship I could ask for what I want. And I'm talking about like, you know, not even big things, like tiny little things that might feel like I just would like it to be this way and not that way. And like really scared to ask for what I want because I'm so scared this person will leave me. And it's like, it's such a disempowered position. But like you say, Beck, it's not that you're detaching to, I actually want my relationship to succeed. Whenever I have those difficult conversations now, I obviously want to stay with that person and work through it and like have that be like make things better in a relationship. But it's just that, yeah, I'm not as rattled. I understand that I can do things on my own. And I, you know, if this person is not willing to meet me in the middle or at least hear this out on this tiny little thing, then, that's data for me. That's information for me. But it just is grounded in this beautiful detachment concept. Like, it's not saying that the person, like you say, it doesn't mean you don't love them. It doesn't mean you don't want to build a whole life with them. It actually does mean that. It's just that you're empowering yourself to create the life and relationship that you want.
Absolutely. And it comes back to exactly how you were describing detachment at the start. And I'm so glad that we jumped in with these examples because it is an esoteric concept, but it's the effect. You can see the effect of detaching here. And it is the paradox. When you detach from something, it allows you to fully choose it. And while you are attached to something, attached from this ego place, this fear place, this place of like, I need it in my life, going like, I need something in my life makes it about you and your need. It's no longer about the thing being great or amazing. And in this case, like that great, I love the relationship example because it's like, you see the effect of like how you behave when you think you need somebody versus having something because you love it, and how you behave when you just want something, when you love something in your life. You show up so differently. And you want this to apply. You can pick up this detachment concept for any place in your life where you're noticing that you're feeling that scarcity of like, or that panic, that fragility of like, if this doesn't go the way that I want it to go, doom. Or you find yourself like, as at a behavioral level, you find yourself really trying to control something, really monitoring something, and really kind of holding your breath, monitoring something. Whether it's your career path, whether it's your relationship, whether it is another colleague at work, whether it is any kind of goal that you're pursuing, if you're noticing that kind of controlling behavior. And the other situation where I think detachment is, we know detachment is really useful, and this can be, I want to say, harder to sort of see. I don't know, they're both pretty tricky, but when you're feeling trapped, when you're feeling like you're being controlled, because that means that you are attached to something here. Because we talked about this concept in episode number 95, when we talked about why ward service feels hard even when you're fully competent. Even as a fully competent doctor, why ward service can still feel so hard in our lives. And that attachment and that trapped feeling, and therefore that separation from our what is true, which is our freedom and our choice as an individual in the world, we've lost those connections and we've attached. So that trapped feeling is another place where you're like, if I'm feeling this somewhere in my life, maybe it's time to consider the thought experiment of detaching. Christine, I know you've got some great examples of this beyond the ward service example, which was amazing.
100%. And I think, just coming back to that kind of detaching so that you can be empowered. And we've obviously talked about big life things like big career decisions or big things like relationships you have, be that at work or at home. But then I think this also applies just to the absolute mundane, to that hamster wheel situation. And it can just show up in so many different ways. So I think just things that come to mind for me and from other people I've spoken to is kind of like those domestic duties and the cognitive load that you might be holding. And maybe you're in a situation where there are other people, housemates or partners or whoever, that might be able to help. But you're in a situation where that thing has become your job, you're in a routine of it. Say, for example, you're responsible for cooking at home, right? And you're cooking a lot, you hate cooking, you're getting in from a big day at work and you're cooking for everyone. And that's just something that is driving you mad. But you've been doing it for so long, it's just what you do, it is your role. Like, this is such a simple example, but I think it's powerful because, like Beck says, we can detach from anything. You think when you're in that situation, you are kind of trapped. You're like, like I've just got to do this again, whatever it is. But the truth is that if you unhook yourself from it and unattach from it, you can say, okay, well, if I wasn't the only person here cooking, if this was not my job, what would be some solutions, right? And so the attached part of you might hold on to like, well, that's impossible. No one else is going to do it for me. They're not doing it now. You can get a bit in that story. And that might even be true. Like, that might be true. Maybe no one is coming to save you, right? But then it's like, okay, well, what are the potential solutions? Like, once you've got the blank canvas, once you've decided, all right, I'm detaching from the cooking thing, now what? Then you can come up with all sorts of things like help with a meal prep, bulk cooking and just freezing everything. You could come up with, if you can afford it, hiring out someone to do your cooking for you, or negotiating with your partner or whoever's around about other ways you can do that. What I'm saying is that creative solutions come from that place of detachment when you're like, there's a line in the sand, this stops now. Whatever we're doing right now is not good. I need to create a blank canvas and start again. And I feel like I do this on a micro level with so many things in my life. Whenever you just start to feel a bit hamster wheelie and a bit overwhelming, and you get that kind of overwhelmed feel, I also love to do like a brain dump, obviously, and figure out what's in my head. But then there are just these things that kind of follow me around that come up again and again and again. And I don't realize that I've got the power to change them. But the truth is, we do. But I think this detachment is important because detachment can be the resistance. It can be the sticky point where you're worried about what other people will think of you, including your loved ones and whatever else. You're also worried about maybe what that means for your own identity or coming across as if you're not coping or something like that, right? You have all these things that come up when you are detaching. So can we speak a little bit more about that, Beck, in terms of that protest and resistance from within?
Yes.
When you are detaching? Yeah.
Yes, I love that because it's so insightful of you to say because nobody's like, I'm so attached to making sure I'm the person who cooks dinner every night. No, like nobody resonates with that. And you've hit the nail on the head, Christine. In everything you do, there's something that it gives you back. Like even if it gives you back like the tiniest little thing compared to like the negatives that come with it, it gives you back something. You do it for a reason. And that's such a great little sneaky example of like, I do the cooking at night because it makes me feel like I'm a good partner or mother or something like that. So like you're not attached to the cooking, you're attached to trying to control the way that people are perceiving you. You're attached to people perceiving you in that way or to that identity, however it kind of shows up in your head. And so that's why it can take a little bit more digging, a little bit more exploring, because, just a brilliant example that I think will resonate with anybody who's a parent. Every so often I get into this like wind up of like, I feel like I am losing myself. I don't have a minute to myself. I miss having time to think for my like extended periods of time to just think, like a solid hour of not being interrupted. I miss having creative time. I miss that all the things that I got from having space and time to myself and having a rested mind. And I start to feel that kind of like trapped feeling. Or like, and the other places that can come, you might recognize these are in a sense of obligation or shoulds. Christine, my first ever group coaching program was called the Shoulds Lab. And it was because I was so aware of the pain that this sense of obligation and shoulds creates in our lives and how much it controls our lives as very like moral, conscientious, caring doctors. We're always trying to do the right thing. And unfortunately, the right thing can often accumulate to just be this long list of shoulds and obligations that we've absorbed from society rather than truly deciding for ourselves. So those shoulds and those obligations. When, with my little bee, I get to these points and I feel that trapped feeling or I feel that obligation feeling. And detachment is the exact tool that I turn to at those moments. I'm like, okay, so what can I change? Like first, the recognition, I'm not really trapped. I'm always choosing, right? And detaching. So what are my choices? I have to detach from my current choice, which is I am choosing to look after little bee in the way that I am. And that's not the only option. What are my other choices? Detach. And it only takes me a few minutes. Actually, I shouldn't say that because sometimes it takes me kind of days to kind of mull over. I think it depends how much I really like see myself and take care of myself in that sense of obligation, the fears, the shoulds that come up, and recognizing my other choices. But that detachment of like, oh, I don't have to do this. I could actually, put her in childcare or get more help in some other way. I could actually create more of that space. And it's so interesting that it's almost like the moment that I detach in that way, I detach and then I can clearly see I'm choosing, I have a choice. I can also clearly see myself better in that alternative scenario of, okay, then she'd be in daycare and I'd have my free time and I'd be able to do blah, 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 blah. And then I would actually deeply, deeply miss her and regret that decision and want to be choosing this precious time with her over that creative different space for me. It's like, like you get to that space, you get detached, and then you can actually reattach like instantly. Once you get out of that lie that there is that that obligation, that trapped feeling, and sometimes it's just a matter of remembering why you chose your choice, which is easy to forget when you're in it and you're feeling some of the negative effects of that choice, because like we talked about in episode 95, no choice is perfect. There's always positives and negatives. Christine, people look at us and they're like, oh my goodness, I'd love to not be a clinician full-time. I'd love to come and do this other special part of me as a doctor full-time or at least part-time. And we're like, we also still have stress in our life. Like life is not all perfect and peachy and rainbows. Like we do a lot of admin work that we don't particularly like. And so it's also just the realization that no choice is perfect, and you've got to be able to drop yourself into that alternative scenario to be able to really take the fullest, it'll still be an attenuated effect or vision or feeling of what that scenario would be. But that detachment is what helps you drop in. It's what helps remind you that you have a choice and you're always choosing when you start from that feeling of obligation.
Yeah, and I think it's also a way to reconnect with the joy of whatever you do like in life, because I think when everything's all combined together and all lumped together, I think when you're living your life, I know that I certainly have this, or even just things that really do normally spark joy. Like say, for example, YouTube for me, making a YouTube video, right? It is something that takes an embarrassing amount of hours to make a YouTube video, but it can be a really beautiful, enjoyable process. Except when you're trying to do like one a week or something and you're kind of losing your mind and you're on the hamster wheel. And I think that's just like an example of something where I would enjoy that, but I don't enjoy it under those circumstances. And so like detaching from all of that stuff and the pressures of it and being like, okay, so say for example, if you're writing a book and you get writer's block, one of the best things you can do is actually like step away from your book, try to keep yourself away from writing, and you will just naturally magnetize back to it. Like once you stop yourself from doing it, like a YouTube video, like I feel like that with YouTube videos, if I was to stop making and creating for a spell, I will come back to that. I can't not do it. But once I'm doing it from like a hamster wheel version, then I don't really like it that much because it is quite stressful.
Just giggling like how many times have we planned to have like a day off and then we end up like diving into doing like the same work that we've been working on anyway, because we're like, I've got my spark back. And actually,
it's a great example. Yeah.
And I just wonder how much of that is just like going from feeling trapped to feeling like you're choosing, like, and the way that detachment creates that. But it really is a masterful process, because you also, I'm thinking back to like a past version of myself who was so attached to my life going a particular way. I had this vision of success all painted out. I knew exactly, this is the typical doctor as well. This is how I think most of us most of us who have these kind of perfectionistic, ambitious tendencies. We started med school and we know it's a long path ahead and we have a very fixed path of like, I don't know about you, but my path was like the fastest. I'm going to do it the fastest. I'm not going to mess around with anything here or there. I'm just going to do it the fastest and get to like consult at the fastest. And then I had like, I don't know, that was just the end of the story. I didn't think any further about what my life would be like. But, we have these super attached mindsets to our achievements and how things are going to go.
But I think it's just such a magic trick when you start using it consciously. Like now I'll put it into a conversation. We were having a conversation the other day, Beck and I, and we were just like, we were trying to hash out some kind of back end thing to do with the podcast. And we were like, do you know what? Like, I think we should just detach from this and then reattach. Let's just detach. And then literally just saying those words to Beck, because she kind of knew what I meant by it. It wasn't like I was saying, I don't want to do the podcast. I was just like, we'll just detach from this thing. And then all of a sudden, here we are on a Sunday morning recording the podcast with this, I feel like a fresh connection with the podcast and how much I want to do it by kind of detaching from being in the weeds with the admin stuff that we were trying to figure out that was really painful behind the scenes, right? It's so like when you put this into your vocabulary and you're like, I'm feeling trapped, I'm feeling scarce, I'm feeling like my happiness depends on X, Y, Z, and I'm not happy therefore because I don't have it yet, or it's not going my way, and no matter how hard I work, I don't seem to be getting further. Whatever it is, the multiple facets of your life that can make you feel like that, just saying, okay, I'm detaching, we got a blank canvas, what is going on this canvas? And then like just seeing what you choose and watching that magic of like allowing yourself to feel free and have choices. And if you don't feel like, there are certain things that aren't going to be, there's still responsibilities that we have to show up for, what you might find is creative solutions that feel better to you. And otherwise, just that kind of that power to come up with that solution. If it's not now, it will be in future, but you've just decided to detach. It's such a powerful shift, and it does something just so beautiful for your mindset, for your energy. It's empowering. So I just encourage all of you to think about what is that thing that's making you feel a bit stuck, and it's a bit meh, it's a bit hamster wheelie. What is that thing, and could you detach to reattach even?
Yeah, absolutely. And realizing that what you're attached to right now, like what you're currently doing right now, has created your current life. It's created your life right now. These are decisions you've made in the past and things you've always done in the past and things you've done up until this present moment. And if you want to create something different, then you need to make different decisions. You need to maybe, that was an opportunity for us to be like, okay, well, this is what we've created. This is how we've been doing the podcast so far. And this is what we've created so far. But we're actually aiming to create something different. Don't panic. We're same vibe, but just like in terms of the way that we technically get things done. So what we need is to actually, necessarily, we need to be able to detach from our current systems and processes, which feels terrifying, so that we can actually create a different result. We can't keep creating, any of what's in your life right now was decided by a past version of yourself. A past version of yourself created this life. And if anything that you're feeling obligated to, anything that you feel a should to, that is just a past version of you who decided that. And the future version of you can make fresh new decisions. There are no obligations. There are no shoulds. And if anything, you want to go and ask them. You want to ask them, what do you want? Where do you want to be? And therefore, what do I need to do now? What new decision do I want to make now to create that? And that might mean you got to loosen that grip. You got to let go of some things in your current life and expect that to feel terrible. I remember my thought from before, and that was a past version of me, that definitely that med school version of me who had this path mapped out the fastest. Probably the first few times I detached, I almost would have pretended to myself to detach. I would have been like, okay, I'm detached now. I don't care at all. I doesn't need to go that way. I would be forcing myself, trying really hard to be like, I don't care. I'll be fine. Yeah, I'd be fine. White knuckling through, I'd be fine. I imagine that would resonate with a couple of you guys. Again, this is a skill. It is a skill to build, and it might not quite, the first time you jump in the car and try to drive, maybe you do all the right things, but it's very clunky and the car doesn't quite move smoothly. Give yourself time to do reps of the skill in the practice mode, because there will probably be parts of you that is terrified to detach. And I think, again, with that, circling back to get somebody else involved in the process if you can, who knows that highest, most expansive, most capable version of you, who knows that whatever you do, you're going to make it great. Get a Christine in your life who can hold that space for you while you're like, what if I just stopped doing this stuff that I've always been doing that's created these amazing results in my life? But would I be okay if I stopped that? And what else would I do in that space? And what might that create? It's not an easy conversation. So recruit your crew.
It is a muscle that you can work. And I think the truth of it is just reflecting on things, because I love that you're saying that sometimes you wrestle with it and you say, yeah, I could attach, I could totally attach, and it's not actually founded in secure vibes within yourself. But I think the truth for me is that I came across this detachment concept in moments in my life where, big or small, where I was wrestling with something and it wasn't going away and it was feeling worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And it was really just some things have been quite traumatic in order to make me detach. Just really big things have happened that make me detach. And so sometimes I think I've learned how to detach through big traumas. And now what I'm saying is I'm realizing that you can actually apply that skill to something so mundane. So there can be forced detachment, and at the time we're going through those things, we do not realize the gift in them. But those things, I think, were the things that helped me to see that I can be okay no matter what. Like, I'm okay, because if that can happen and I can be okay, then I am bulletproof. And I think sometimes life teaches you that in the hardest ways possible. But I guess if that kind of thing hasn't happened to you, or you can't resonate with that at this time, I think just what we're trying to talk about today is just more on that granular micro level of detachment, where it actually is a choice to detach. I think that's what we're sort of saying. It can be big, it can be small. And we would just encourage you all to just have a think about this in your life. I think there'll be so many things. And obviously let us know in the comments below. And if you find this helpful, be sure to share it with a buddy that you think has a high cognitive load and might want to detach from lots of things. We can all have that power today to have a blank canvas. Just see that magic. Just see how unattaching from things, unhooking yourself from the shoulds and the obligations and all of the things that you said yes to that you currently have in your daily experience, just seeing how when you unattach, when you unhook, you will come at your life with a freshness that is an absolute gift, and it will feel like thriving. And even things that you still decide to put back on that canvas, even if it's just the exact same thing, they'll probably have a different feel to you. The way you experience them and the way you perceive them will be so, so different. So that is what I wish for everyone listening today.
Yes, we're going from I need to do this, I have to do this, to I want to do this, I'm choosing this. And this is a way to create a life that you truly love, where everything that is in your life, you're recognizing in every moment, I'm choosing this is my choice, this is my creation. And then that love just flows from it. And that gives you energy. That gives you so much more energy, whereas that I have to, I need to, it drains your energy, and it just keeps you stuck in that old self version of you. So try this concept. Again, skill building, reps, experimentation. It's a thought experiment to do. Do it in a place where you feel supported, where you can sit with somebody who knows just how capable you are. And in every moment, and in all the moments to come in your life, always come back to the truth that you're always choosing. If you feel trapped, you've only forgotten that truth. I'm always choosing everything in my life. All right, our Dr. Humans, we'll see you next time.
Bye.
We get so many heartfelt thank yous from our fellow doctors for having these vulnerable conversations on this public podcast. If you want to say thank you too, we would be most appreciative if you left our podcast a review. Reviews actually mean everything to us because they're what make the platform share this podcast with all the other Dr. Humans. And our mission is to make as many Dr. Humans as we can reach feel more human. Just go to the podcast app, click on the show, and find the option to review. The other way you can help us is just by sharing the podcast with someone in your life who you know will say, thank you for saying that, or tagging us on social media. And if you're in healthcare looking for speakers for your next event, or professionals who actually get it to facilitate the vulnerable conversations our teams of doctors need, request us through podcastfordoctors@gmail.com.